Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're plunging into stories, into complex ideas, and today, well, it's a truly unique journey. We're looking at how people navigate the extraordinary, the really unconventional, especially when they're young. What happens when childhood just doesn't follow any map? When the people supposed to guide you are, well, tearing up the map entirely. For this deep dive, our source is Augusten Burroughs' memoir, Running with Scissors. It's raw, it's funny sometimes really tough, a first-hand look at a childhood that doesn't just blur normalcy, it blows it up.
Exactly. And our mission here is to really explore how how Augustine endures this incredibly chaotic upbringing, but also processes it. How do you use that to build an identity, to find a path forward? We're going beyond just the shock value, looking for the coping mechanisms, those moments of, stark clarity amidst the chaos and maybe the unexpected strengths that get forged in that kind of fire. It's about adaptation, really, in the extreme.
Right, so let's unpack this. Augustine's story really starts at home, and it's something else. His mother, she's described as polished, but also really eccentric, smelling of Jean Até, dippity dough, and the waxy sweetness of lipstick. Can you just picture that?
Oh, vividly.
But then the detail of her using Kotex maxi pads as instant shoulder pads in her Pucci dress, and she identifies with Maud,
Yeah.
that lady on TV.
Right.
And this one detail really hit me. Augustine connecting his mother's fancy shoes with this feeling of dread, abandonment. How significant is that kind of early
Like,
association?
it's hugely significant. It speaks volumes. Her eccentricities, the Kotex pads, identifying with Maud. It's not just quirky. It suggests this deep-seated, almost performative self, right? Always needing attention, reshaping reality, and the fancy shoes triggering dread. That's classic conditioning. A child learning subconsciously that glamour equals abandonment. When she dressed up, she left. It wires the brain to link outward appearance with inner fear, sets up real insecurity.
And this performance thing carried into her creative life too, didn't it? This intense desire for her poetry, her confessional poetry, to be in the New Yorker. She thought it would make her a very famous woman. And Augustine sort of became her critic, her child critic.
Exactly. He knew instinctively the correct answer when she asked about her poem, praising it, saying, wow, that really does seem like something you'd read in the New Yorker. It's heartbreaking, really. It's what we call parentification. The child taking on adult emotional roles. He's not just a critic. He's propping up her fragile ego, regulating her emotions. It forces a kid to be hyper-aware of the parent's needs, often sacrificing their own voice, their own boundaries.
Oh. And then there's the father. Such a stark contrast. A highly functional alcoholic professor of mathematics with psoriasis, making him look like a dried mackerel that could stand upright and wear tweed, and the personality of petrified wood, just unavailable. Augustine mentions him refusing to play checkers because of too much work or a bad knee. That constant unavailability, combined with the mother's drama, it creates such an imbalanced world, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. That kind of dynamic, the emotionally withdrawn father, the unstable, dramatic mother, it almost guarantees a sense of insecurity, of abandonment in a child. When you don't get consistent emotional mirroring from both parents, it's incredibly hard to build a stable sense of self-worth. Augustine's later need for order, for control, you can see it as a direct response to this early unpredictability. He basically had to parent himself.
And their relationship itself, just toxic. Burroughs calls it mutual loathing, verbal abuse, flying infantile tyrant, goddamn bastard. The mother saying, I regret the day I ever married you.
Wow.
And Augustine watching them fight, fastening and unfastening his gold chain for comfort, eventually begging them, can't you two stop fighting? You always fight and I hate it.
That image of the gold chain, it's just devastating. It's a classic self-soothing behavior. Trying to find some tiny bit of control, something tangible, when the adult world is completely out of control. Being exposed constantly to that kind of destructive trauma bond between parents where hate and abuse are normal, it leaves deep scars. It teaches a kid that love and conflict are the same thing, warps their idea of relationships. And then the incident where she knocks the father out, the small pool of blood and her just dismissing it, that cements the instability. It shows that pain just doesn't matter in that system.
So amidst all that, Augustine starts developing his own ways to cope. Really elaborate ways sometimes. He obsessed over his perfect hair. Apparently, one stray flyaway was enough to send the hairbrush into the mirror.
Wow, control.
Yeah. And he loved shiny things like polished mood rings. And then this whole fantasy world he built. Pine trees were Panavision cameras. Fallen branches were my mark, like on a movie set.
It's a fascinating glimpse into how a child's mind tries to create order, an internal sanctuary, when the outside world is just chaos. The hair obsession, the shiny things, the fantasy movie set. These aren't just quirks. They're desperate attempts to exert control, to build a structured internal reality that counters the unpredictable external one. It's a survival mechanism, pure and simple. He needed to be the director of something.
And he valued medical doctors and celebrities for their symbols of order, white jackets and stretch limousines, even dreamed of playing a doctor on TV.
Exactly. It reveals this deep yearning for status, for cleanliness, for order, everything missing from his real life. He was literally constructing an alternate reality just to get by.
Okay, so just when you think things can't get any stranger, enter Dr. Finch.
Yes, Dr. Finch.
The psychiatrist brought in to supposedly help the parents, but he is not your typical doctor. Looks like Santa Claus. Toothbrush bristles for eyebrows, brown polyester slacks, sometimes a Santa hat. Comes to the first visit with a balloon and a World Fathers Organization button. Quite a contrast to Augustine's image of a real doctor, huh?
A massive contrast.
Yeah.
That first impression just screams that all bets are off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This isn't a neutral, clinical figure. He's theatrical, almost bizarre. It immediately shatters any hope Augustine might have had for that stable, white jacket authority figure.
Yeah.
It sets the stage perfectly for everything that follows. Boundaries just don't exist here.
And his office, not exactly reassuring. Peeling taint, cracked rattan furniture, a Mr. Coffee machine.
Not confidence-inspiring, no.
He gives out prescription drug paperweights as gifts, or $5 bills, and apparently ate raw Oscar Mayer wieners as an appetizer. So it's less a therapy space and more like walking into his own eccentric, boundaryless world, isn't it?
Exactly. The whole environment, his habits, it just screams that the lines are gone. Doctor, patient, professional, personal, it's all mashed together. It creates this space where the doctor isn't helping you find your reality. He's imposing his. The raw wieners, the weird gifts.
Yeah.
It's like bizarre behavior presented as totally normal.
And things escalate fast. Augustine's mother starts seeing Finch daily. Eventually, Augustine ends up living there because, as he puts it, she couldn't handle me.
Right. The transition.
And then masturbatorium. This room Dr. Finch uses for, self-gratification, openly talks about reading about Golda Meir to get stimulated, and his daughter, Hope, is found napping in there once.
Yeah.
The level of dysfunction, the total lack of boundaries, it's profound.
The masturbatorium. It's more than just bizarre. It's a chilling symbol of the total collapse of appropriate boundaries in that house. For a kid like Augustine, already coming from chaos, to be thrown into that, where the authority figure not only does this but normalizes it, involves his own kids, it's incredibly disorienting. It scrambles your internal compass about what's okay, what's right, what's deeply wrong. You're forced to adapt to this severely warped reality where major violations are just Tuesday.
And the Finch family dynamics were their own kind of chaos, a household where the more people, the better the fight, apparently. And they used all this psychoanalytic jargon, projection, denial, passive-aggressive in their arguments, like weapons.
Yes, weaponized therapy should be.
Emotional health became a competition. Finch would say things like, Hope has been expressing a lot of healthy anger lately. What does that do to a kid?
It's a classic dysfunctional system. Emotional expression isn't about connection. It's about control, about scoring points in this weird, pseudo-intellectual game they've set up. Using those terms justifies the chaos, makes it sound almost scientific. For Augustine, it meant learning that real feelings didn't matter as much as winning the argument or performing the right kind of anger. It teaches you to manipulate, to see relationships as battlegrounds, not safe places, a total distortion of emotional intelligence.
And while all this is happening, Augustine's biological mother's mental health is spiraling, described as crazy in a gas oven, toothpaste sandwich, I am God sort of way.
Yeah, escalating significantly.
In the ultimate boundary cross, Dr. Finch legally adopts Augustine, becomes his legal father, doctor, patient, family, all lines just erased.
That adoption is the final act of boundary obliteration, isn't it? It completely subverts ethics, roles, everything. For Augustine, it cements this idea that chaos is his normal, that authority figures are fundamentally unreliable. It provides a kind of stability, I suppose, but it's stability within extreme dysfunction. It fundamentally reshapes his identity. His past is rewritten, his present is this madness. It has to complicate his understanding of love, attachment, family, forcing him to rebuild his sense of self within this incredibly abnormal frame.
So in this new, completely redefined reality, Augustine starts figuring out who he is. He knew early on he was gay, and his first fear was how the Finches, being Catholic, might react.
Understandable fear.
But Hope's reaction is just casual. Big deal, she says. Adds, she figured it out on my own anyway. That moment of simple acceptance must have felt huge, right? Like a tiny light.
Oh, absolutely. In that landscape of manufactured drama and dysfunction, a moment of genuine, uncomplicated acceptance like that, it's incredibly powerful, especially for a young person grappling with identity. Hope's nonchalance is a vital counterpoint. It's a reminder that real human connection can exist even in the craziest environments. But of course, even that acceptance gets complicated by other relationships in the house.
Which brings us to Bookman, Hope's adopted gay brother. And this relationship becomes incredibly complex and disturbing.
Deeply disturbing.
Bookman initially says all the right things. I'm here for you whenever you need to talk. I will never take advantage of you. Sounds like a lifeline.
Exactly, positioning himself as safe.
But then the sexual encounters happen, and Augusten describes them with this chilling detachment and discomfort. His cock is inexplicably down my throat, that word, inexplicably, and then it was not fun, and I didn't like it at all. It's not just physical, it's such a deep betrayal after that promise of support. How does that kind of violation impact someone trying to figure out who they are, who to trust?
The word inexplicably just captures it, doesn't it? The horror of a boundary being completely erased, not just physically, but psychologically. It wasn't just sex. It was manipulation, a profound breach of trust, especially after Bookman set himself up as a safe confidant. For Augusten, already lost in this boundaryless world, it likely hammered home a terrible lesson. Even promised safety can be a trap. It deeply damages the ability to trust, to form healthy connections. It breeds cynicism about people's motives.
And Augusten tells his biological mother about Bookman. Her reaction is, well, surprising, almost jarringly progressive on the surface.
Right. What does she say?
She says, I don't want you to suffer from the same sort of oppression that I suffered from as a girl. What do you even make of that response? It's fascinatingly complex, isn't it? On one level, it sounds empathetic, like she's connecting with his pain. But look closer. By immediately framing it through her past oppression, she subtly shifts the focus back to herself. Is she truly seeing his trauma, or is she using it to reinforce her own narrative of suffering? It feels like even a potentially supportive moment gets filtered through her own unresolved issues. He's still kind of left alone with it.
That makes sense. And we see the psychological impact in Augusten's journal. He actually considers threatening Bookman with statutory rape charges, not out of anger necessarily, but as a tool to get back some control.
Chilling but revealing.
It shows this developing, maybe kind of dark understanding of manipulation, doesn't it? Absolutely. It's a critical window into his survival strategy. He's learning power dynamics, learning to use whatever leverage he can find, even something morally complex like that, to regain some sense of agency. And that conflict you mentioned, hating Bookman's weakness but also needing his attention. That's the tangled web of dependency that forms in these situations. He's learning the distorted rules of this world to survive in it, becoming skilled, maybe too skilled, at reading and using people's flaws.
And the strangeness, the warped sense of normal just kept going, like the whole family eating Purina dog chow.
Ah, the dog chow incident.
Bookman and Agnes just normalize it, so Augusten joins in, thinking of it as trying new things. It really shows how his baseline for reality was constantly being shifted, right?
It's a perfect, if absurd, example of how deviance gets normalized. When the authority figures, the supposed grown-ups, constantly undermine basic rules of normalcy, a kid's filter just breaks down. Eating dog food becomes just another Tuesday. It's about fitting in, surviving within the system, even if the system requires you to participate in increasingly bizarre things. It shows how profoundly the environment warped his sense of what was acceptable.
So it's probably no surprise he hated traditional school. Called junior high a factory that might churn out ground meat products.
Vivid description.
His strategy was basically show up for roll call in homeroom, then leave. Go write in his journal, see foreign films, kind of creating his own education.
And that's another form of self-preservation, isn't it? When the official structures fail you, family, school, you're forced to become your own guide. His rejection of school wasn't just teenage angst. It was rejecting another system that felt meaningless compared to the intense life education he was getting. Journaling, films, those were his ways to process, reflect, build an inner life to cope with the outer chaos.
And speaking of escaping school, Dr. Finch's solution, just unbelievable.
Oh, the seal, yeah.
He advises Augusten to stage a fake suicide attempt, a ruse, to get committed to a psychiatric hospital, which would legally excuse him from school for months.
Just, well, the ethical void there.
And Augusten considers it, says it was only slightly more appealing than school. That tells you everything about his desperation and the kind of help he was getting.
It's absolutely chilling. It shows the utter bankruptcy of Finch's ethics and how desperate Augustine was. Manipulation and deceit weren't just tolerated, they were strategy, taught by the supposed healer. And for Augustine, the fact that faking a suicide attempt seemed only marginally worse than school. It speaks volumes about his alienation, about the extreme measures he considered just to escape. It normalizes exploiting mental health crises for convenience. Just staggering.
The chaos wasn't just internal either. It spilled out physically. Augustine and Natalie, another Finch household resident, basically destroy the kitchen ceiling.
Right, the ceiling incident.
Out of boredom, frustration, wanting pure freedom, they start throwing rocks, hitting it with skillets. And Dr. Finch's reaction to this spectacular mess,
Casual indifference.
pretty much, offers cash for repairs, which results in this botched job, a 7.5-inch disaster left in the roof. What does that lack of consequences teach a kid?
It teaches that boundaries are meaningless, that destruction doesn't really matter. Kids need predictable consequences to learn impulse control, responsibility, cause and effect. Here, destroying property is met with cash. It fosters this sense that rules don't apply, that you can literally tear things down without facing real repercussions. It's a recipe for, well, maybe self-destructive freedom.
It's fascinating, though, to track Augustine's dreams for himself amidst all this. They really evolve.
Right.
Early on, dreaming of being a doctor, that symbol of order,
Yeah.
then fantasizing about a beauty empire, becoming the next Vidal Sassoon, even though he apparently wasn't great at finger waves.
Right. Control and transformation again.
Yeah. And then finally, influenced by Natalie, realizing he might be a writer, but his first reaction is resistance. I don't want to be a writer. Look at my mother.
That connection is key.
What's the thread here? And why the resistance to writing?
The thread is control and transformation, absolutely. Doctor, beauty mogul, both roles let you shape reality, fix things, make things orderly or beautiful. It echoes his childhood coping, creating order where there was none. His resistance to writing is so telling. He associates it directly with his mother's instability, her unfulfilled dreams, her chaos. He fears inheriting that. It takes real strength for him to eventually claim writing for himself, not as her kind of desperate validation, but as his tool for survival and expression.
And the Finch's weirdness just permeated everything, even bodily functions. The toilet bowl reading.
Oh, God, yes. The scatology.
Dr. Finch interpreting bowel movements for financial advice. The family having dramatic reactions if he was constipated.
Utterly bizarre.
But Augustine and Natalie start using it. They use his neurological pathology, as they call it, to justify their own dreams. Augustine says, if he can be a doctor, I should be able to get into beauty school.
That's actually brilliant in a dark way. It shows them developing this sharp, cynical, satirical view of the world. It's a sophisticated coping mechanism. They see the absurdity of Finch's authority, the pseudoscience, and they leverage it. They're saying, if this madness is the benchmark for expertise, then our own crazy dreams are just as valid. They find a perverse logic within the chaos to empower themselves. It shows their resilience, their wit, finding a way forward, even in that distorted reality.
And ultimately, it's this completely unconventional, often perverse education that prepares him for, well, for life outside the Finch house.
His unique schooling.
Yeah. He moves to New York City, fueled by this realization. New York could not be crazier than my life had been at the Finch's house, and I survived that. He says, unwittingly, I had earned a PhD in survival.
That line is so powerful, a PhD in survival.
And it gives him this dual vision, doesn't it? Seeing someone like Liza Minnelli as success, but also imagining himself potentially ending up as a male prostitute. It captures the extremes.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
The PhD isn't academic. It's this deep, lived understanding of human behavior, adaptation, sheer willpower when all the usual supports are gone. Liza versus the prostitute, that's the tightrope he walked. The pull towards glamour and recognition versus the raw, sometimes degrading reality he knew he could fall into, and his realization about guidance.
Right. The problem with not having anybody to tell you what to do is that there was nobody to tell you what not to do.
Exactly. That lack of external limits, while terrifying, forced a kind of radical self-reliance. He had to create his own rules, his own ethics, his own path, because nobody else would.
Yeah.
That's the core of his survival skill.
So Augustine's journey from this childhood of unbelievable chaos and dysfunction to becoming an adult armed with this PhD in survival, it's quite something. He watched, he documented, he turned it all into this unique, unforgettable story. It shows that even in the most bizarre, challenging settings, people find ways to adapt, to observe, and somehow forge an identity.
It really does. His story is just this incredible testament to human resilience, not just surviving, but actively creating an identity, finding a path when there are no conventional signposts at all. It shows how navigating those extreme environments, paradoxically, can equip you with incredible self-reliance, a dark humor maybe, but also a unique way of seeing the world. He literally turned chaos into a kind of wisdom. So maybe the thought to leave you with is this. In a world where boundaries can feel blurry, where guidance isn't always clear, how do you draw your own lines? How do you protect your sanity, define your own path, and tap into your own, maybe unexpected resilience?